Week 11 of college football is in the books, but today I want to spend talking about the current state of this quarterback class, because if your favorite NFL team is in desperate, dire need of a quarterback, I think you're looking in the wrong class. And I mean, it's inevitable. Some of these guys, they may return. Some of these guys, they're probably going to go in the first round, and we're going to discuss it this week by talking about their performances. So without further ado, let's go ahead, get into this. Welcome to the Stock Report, by the way. And the first quarterback we're going to talk about is Carson Beck. The mighty fall of Carson Beck is, because, I mean, for a lot of people, he was quarterback 1 coming into the year. I think he was quarterback 2 for me coming into the year. And since then, he just keeps falling week in and week out. Didn't have a strong performance this past weekend against Ole Miss, where he threw for only 186 yards. He had an interception, 2 fumbles. I get it, wasn't exactly the most ideal of weather conditions. And I mean, you can make a good case. Like, out of all the guys I'm going to talk about today, Carson Beck, his receivers have probably let him the most down, because he has the highest drop rate from his receivers among anyone talking about today. Currently, that is, I think what he's got, let's look it up real quick. 19 drops from his receivers this year. That's led to an 8.3% drop rate on his passes. And man, that's just critical. That just sucks. But it's not just a him thing. This whole year, he just doesn't have chemistry with his receivers. Him and his receivers are not on the same wavelength. They're just not. And coming into the year, Beck was a guy known for, good decision making, which that hasn't been the case. 17 turnover-worthy plays this year. He's been known to be a very savvy thrower, a guy that throws with good anticipation and shows poise in the pocket. And all that's just kind of been off tilt for him. It just has. Whether like with the anticipation, he's behind on throws, or the receivers just aren't getting there, or like, again, outside of Dominic Lovett, he really hasn't had a connection with anybody. And when it comes to Beck, we were already talking about a guy with not the biggest arm. He's got like an okay arm. It's not elite. It's not great. It's kind of been that good variety. It's okay. It's okay. So you're going to have to rest on, hey, especially if you're not like the most mobile guy, like he's someone that can move around in the pocket and he could throw on the move, but he's not threatening anybody with his legs. Don't get that twisted. Don't get that confused. So that means, hey, you need to be on point, pinpoint accuracy, and it just hasn't been the case this year for Carson Beck. And he's firmly, I think for most people in this day 2 discussion now, because I mean, there's still some stuff there that I think you could make use of, someone who can be a quality starter at some point. It's just, there's always going to be a cap on that ceiling. But I firmly look at him as a 3rd round prospect, at least at this juncture. But we're going to stick with the same game, and I want to talk about Jaxson Dart, because I've gotten some questions about Jaxson Dart. Jaxson Dart's always been a guy that I absolutely love. Dating back to last season, right, where I was like, oh, this is a 1st round grade type guy. The year last year there was ups, there was downs, and he's largely known for beating it up on, well, not great competition. And then when it comes to those games against really good defenses, we're used to him floundering and choking. Now, he was coming off a really good performance against Arkansas, where he threw 6 touchdowns. And then this week, it wasn't like the most impressive performance, don't get me wrong, but I think he was also nursing an ankle injury. He actually came out of the game for a drive, but he did return. The dude's got grit. He's got toughness. Don't get it twisted either. Should slide more. Does put his body in dubious circumstances. Does need to do a better job of protecting his body, but he, coming from that Lane Kiffin offense, where it's like not a lot of that is translatable. It's very RPO heavy, and I know the NFL, they do their fair share of RPOs, but not to a degree. There's really not a lot you can take from this Ole Miss offense and be like, okay, this is NFL level decision making. This is NFL level throws. Like, I'm not saying it's not there. It's there and bits and pieces, but we're not seeing it consistently because that's just not the offense. It's similar to what we talk about with Tennessee's offense, where it makes it very easy on the quarterback because it provides a lot of space and they're able to throw, in some cases, into these barn doors. So that's kind of the one thing with Dart, where why you have people that are going to be a little less high on him, but I think he's firmly a day 2 guy. I really do. I don't know if he'll flirt with like a top 50, because like there are times where he throws with ego and like he's got good arm strength. I think it's better than Beck, certainly, but it's not like it's elite either. I think he's got a great feel of pressure and he's got a quick release. He just plays with really good grit. He's a slippery athlete, can create with his feet. But man, it's just, I don't know how much I buy completely into Dart. I mean, this is a guy that's consistently taking shots down the field, and I mean, again, that's what the offense demands, right? His average depth of target this season is 12 yards down the field, which is utterly ridiculous. You're not going to see that at the NFL level. You're just not, and I mean, there's so many times where he'll just take shots down the field, and you'll get kind of these barren wasteland games where he just doesn't do a lot through the air outside of those big shots. Where you go to the South Carolina game, 14-27, average depth of target, 16 freaking yards down the field. You go to the LSU game, 24-42, average depth of target, 15 yards down the field. Those are 2 cases where he was throwing for an adjusted completion percentage of about 65% in those 2 games. Adjusted completion percentage, again, it takes out throwaways, drops, and spikes. Yeah, I think those are the 3 it takes out. So you're getting kind of the truest sense of how accurate is this cat on a throw-to-throw basis. And I mean, in this Georgia game, it was a bit of the same, except for, well, the average depth of target was actually much lower. It was actually below 10 yards per attempt. Granted, it was 9.9, but still. So it's like, man, that's just something that's not sustainable. I actually talked about this a year and a half ago with Gino when I did the Seahawks deep dive, where it's like he was so good down the field, so accurate, but it's like those downfield throws, those deep throws, it's not sustainable that you're gonna hit them at like a 58% rate. And as soon as that started coming down to earth, so did Gino to a degree. So in the NFL, that it's just not going to translate to consistent, high quality play. You might have some of those like big games, but when it comes to like stability and consistency on the offense, you're just not going to have it. And I think that's probably where the big concern lies with Dart. But I still absolutely love Dart. Don't get me wrong. I really, really do. Now let's get away from this game. Everybody loves the NFL draft, and I know you want to be familiar with every potential prospect that your team may draft, so I got good news for you. My draft guide is available for purchase. It is good throughout the entire draft cycle, and it updates through the season regularly. You'll get my current evals and rankings on hundreds of different players with player backgrounds and analytics. It also contains combine and pro day numbers, as well as my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. You can purchase it for a one-time payment of $30 on PayPal, Venmo, and now I have the Cash App. Follow the link in the description and be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. That is how I share it with you. So please don't make me hunt down your email. Just don't do it. Anywho, it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Let's talk about Cam Ward, because for some people, he is quarterback 1. I know quarterback 1 is a toss-up. Who knows who it is? Ha ha ha. But most people are kind of narrowed it down to maybe like a handful of like maybe 3 or 4 guys. Cam Ward is constantly in that mix. And he's coming off his first L of the year, man. Georgia Tech. Oh, giving Miami the business. Fun fact, I took Georgia Tech plus 8.5. Thank you. Hit my little 3-4 leg parlay because of it. Also took Mississippi State plus 24. 25.5 is actually when I bet it. Also, the under in the Georgia Ole Miss game hit for me. So, what was the other game I had in that parlay? I can't remember now. Might have been Army minus 5.5. I can't recall. But we're not here to talk about my parlays. You can hear about my parlays when we do our watch-alongs, which will be back this weekend. But Cam Ward still had a pretty brilliant game, going 25 of 39 for 348 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's an adjusted completion rate of 72.2%, which, hey, that's fine. I mean, for like the elite guys that you're probably going to be considering taking in that top 10 mold, you want that closer or somewhere in between like 74, 78%. But you're going to make exceptions, obviously, for maybe guys that have certain traits, certain elite traits, right? And with Cam Ward, man, he is a big play threat. The dude, I think, currently leads college football in big time throws. He's tied for first with Seth Hennigan out of Memphis with 25 big time throws. But right up there are those turnover worthy plays, 13 on the season. I know it might not be reflected in his interception total, which is just 6, but it doesn't mean he's not putting the ball in harm's way at some times. Because, I mean, this is a dude that does want to hit the big play and will overlook maybe the easier check down for like 5 to 7 yards and take a shot he really maybe has no business trying down the field. But the dude, he has that ego when it comes to his arm, right? He's like, I can make that throw. And some cases he can. Some cases it's like, hey, don't throw into double coverage. I don't know what to tell you. But you look at the big time, you look at the big playability, and you're like, yes, I want that for my offense. That's why a multitude of people talk about him as quarterback one, me as well. But he's not the cleanest prospect. He's just not, right? When it comes to like footwork, all over the place, right? Just all over the place. And to be fair, to be as accurate as he is this season, just a completion rate of 75.6% on the year. For what his footwork is currently on throws, that's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. If you're like, hey, still a reasonably accurate arm, despite, it's like we can work with that. You just can't play hero ball all the time, right? I did mention the game losing fumble. That sucks. That's not on him, man. If Miami had a better defense, golly. But I'm kind of curious if Miami does end up making the playoff, which again, that's kind of in the air. They're probably going to have to win out, have to win the ACC title if they're going to make it. I'm really eager to see him against, like, and this isn't a knock at Georgia Tech's defense. They got a really good defense there at Georgia Tech, but I want to see him against like a Notre Dame, a Georgia, an Ohio State, a Penn State. I want to see him against some of those elite defenses and see how he can do. And listen, man, I love the dude's demeanor. He's calm, cool, collected, even in the midst of, oh, we're down multiple scores. Let's go and get it done. He's got a bit of that just like stone cold killer to him, right? But you got to be willing to take the checkdowns. You got to clean up a lot with his game. And like he might be, like he's currently QB1 for me just because of what he can be. I think he can reach like those elite, like when you're looking for an elite quarterback, I think he can someday, if you clean up some of the stuff with him, he can be in that like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson type of fold. It's just, and I mean, that's the type of quarterback I'm willing to bet on. You just gotta like trust your coaching staff to be able to clean up some of the stuff with him. And that's kind of why I'm in on him as quarterback one. It might be really the only guy like me personally that I'd be willing to take in the top 10 among this class. But yeah, the loss wasn't on him, man. He's consistently leading this offense down the field, getting scores. And Georgia Tech, they basically played the game at their pace the whole way. Played Miami like a freaking fiddle. All right, we're going to move on to Jalen Milroe. out of Alabama, had the big game against LSU, or at least on the ground. He goes 12 of 18 for 109 yards through the air, but he had 185 yards on the ground, 4 tutties. And right now, this dude is just all tools. Might be the most toolsy prospect in the class. Huge arm. No one touches him, though, in terms of athletic ability. No one does. But on a throw-to-throw basis, the dude just isn't consistent. The ball placement can be a bit all over the place. And we've seen that. We've seen that time and time again in games. And I've seen people talk about like, oh man, maybe he comes back for another year and tries to like become a bit more polished in some regard. I mean, that would make him a redshirt senior. But I mean, honestly, playing time at the college level, you don't need to rush it. Go to the NFL. I mean, there's a case to be made for like some positions. Just go ahead, get to the NFL, get an NFL weight room, and get NFL coaching and start polishing up your game. But I think there might be a better case because, like, honestly, quarterbacks, you just want more. You just want more reps under the belt. And I don't know how much more accurate this cat can really get. But I mean, you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, wasn't the most accurate passer coming out of Oklahoma, once Alabama. He wasn't the most accurate passer in the world. He didn't come from like the crazy. He was playing with Lincoln Riley, man. It was basically, hey, first read ain't open, then get it with your feet. And he's developed into a hell of a good quarterback, like arguably a top 10 quarterback in the league. Some may argue. And I think that could probably be the pace for Milroe, honestly. So I think coming back actually could do a world of good for him because, I mean, dude, if you're going to work on the accuracy, it's reps. It's reps. And you're not going to get more reps just jump into the NFL. You're just not. So, yeah, we'll see with him. Again, it's the tools that'll set him over the top. Like, is he a first-round quarterback? I mean, I'd argue just tools alone, I'd be willing to take a shot on him, maybe in the back end of that first-round area, if he is available. But I don't know, man. We'll see. We're going to stick with this game. We're going to jump to Garrett Nussmeier. Oh, rough day at the office for Nussmeier. Nussmeier's probably has had the most rough 6 quarters of football this season. And it's a shame because I think Nuss is a first-round caliber quarterback. I don't know if that surprises people. It shouldn't. He's been talked about as a first-round caliber player, but he is currently a redshirt junior. He does have another year of eligibility. I think coming back would do a wealth of good. Keep in mind, like with Nussmeier, opposed to like all the quarterbacks really in this class, this is his first year as a starter. Like, he was backing up Jaden Daniels the last 2 years. He waited his turn, and here he is. I guess you can make the case for Miller Moss, but he's already going to be in the transfer portal. So he's essentially probably going to be out of this class. Hasn't entered it yet, so we'll see. But I think there's a good case for Nussmeier to get more reps under his belt. Again, I was just talking about with Milroe. I think Nuss has a ton to gain by just returning and being the starter for just another season. Now, not a great game by him. Ended up getting, the last 2 games, A&M, he had a adjusted completion rate of 57.4%. This game was a little bit better, but you just see the turnover-worthy plays, man. There's just too many of them, and it's been apparent last 2 weeks. I mean, in this game where they had a chance to make it a 1-score game, and he just doesn't see Deontay Lawson coming off the inner slant route, moves to the outside slant, and just basically throws it right to him because he already expected him. Oh, he already bit here. I'm going right here, and bam, ends a potential scoring drive. It was rough, man. It was just rough, a rough outing for Nussmeier. This is a dude that, hey, when everything's perfect, dude, there might not be a a better quarterback in college football, man. He has some legitimate NFL throws on tape. He's got a pretty darn solid arm. He's got the arm talent. And like you see some of the anticipation throws and it's beautiful. But the minute he gets a little bit of pressure and he's thrown off time and he's forced to get put on the move and I'm not throwing from a consistent base, gets toesy in the pocket, and then just the turnover where he throws just come like a flood. There's no stopping it. It's an avalanche. So I think another year would do him wonders at LSU, because I do think he's got first round potential. So he's kind of a guy that I think will return. I think either this week or next week, I'm going to do a video on guys that I think should return. And I'm going to try to not make that list feature a ton of quarterbacks. I'm going to try not to. But let's move on. Let's talk about Quinn Ewers coming off his best game since returning from injury. He just beats up on poor Florida, going 19 of 27 for 333 yards and 5 touchdowns. Quinn Ewers is such a fascinating quarterback because he's got the arm talent. He's got really good arm talent. It's just on a throw-to-throw basis, he's not entirely the most accurate quarterback, and that's more so down the field. We could pull it up. I know it's better this year. His completion rate on downfield throws. It's better, but I don't think it's better by much. Let's just pull it up. As this year, 48.9%. That's actually not terrible. In college, you kind of want that number to be a little bit higher just because, well, you're doing it at the collegiate level. But then you look at on the intermediate, throws of 10 to 19 yards on the field, 50%. Ugh, I don't love that. Matter of fact, I don't like that. Here, let's jump to 2023. The throws to the intermediate part of the field, it's regressed big time. He was at 70% last year. The throws downfield, hey, it's a little bit better. It's 4% higher, but still, you worry about him and that ball placement on throws, not just downfield, but on the intermediate level. And that's where quarterbacks are going to throw the most in the NFL, on the intermediate. That's just facts. So you're kind of hoping he could get better at that. But I mean, this was a strong game after kind of being not great, wasn't great in the Oklahoma game when he returned. The Georgia game was a nightmare. Not entirely on him, but it was a nightmare. And then the Vandy game, it had its ups and it had its downs. This was by far a big step in the right direction for Ewers. So you're gonna kind of wonder, does he get into? I don't think he's in quarterback one conversation. I just don't. But after like my top two, like the top two guys, I think he's in that discussion for like, oh man, I feel like he's still behind. I don't know. I think you can make a case about him over Nussmeier, over Drew Allar. Jalen Milroe is kind of just a wild card, so you really don't know what to think when it comes to him. But it's going to be fascinating. Also, you bring up, this is a man that hasn't played a full season. Granted, it's not like the injuries have kept him out of significant amount of time. Like you look at 2022. He suffered a clavicle sprain on his non-throwing shoulder, caused him to miss 3 games in 2023. He missed only a game because of a injury on his throwing shoulder. And then this year he missed, I think, 2 games? Because it was like Mississippi State and it was like Louisiana Monroe or something. He missed 2 games because of the abdominal injury. So it's like, can you stay healthy? Maybe you need to pack on a little bit more weight. So again, those concerns are they're just going to be there. They're just going to be there for NFL scouts. I don't have to necessarily believe it. You don't have to necessarily believe it. But NFL scouts, they will take that into consideration. All right, we're moving on. I just mentioned Drew Allar, so we're going to talk about Drew Allar at Penn State. Coming off a good game where he went 20 of 28 for 220 yards. Did throw a tutty. Tyler Warren had a phenomenal game where he had two rushing touchdowns. Absolutely love it. But I think Allar's taken such a big step in the right direction this season. Hasn't been perfect? Hell no. But he's not putting the ball in harm's way. I do wish that there was a little bit more big-time throws to him, but at the same time, he's not throwing the ball as much as nearly some of the other prospects in this class. He's just playing within the offense. He's doing a great job of it. Like, honestly, big outlier is really just that Ohio State game, where that was a tough defense and the offense was all out of sorts, and you could pin the playmakers. You could put it on the playmakers, their inability to create separation. And honestly, I thought he had some good throws in that Ohio State game, having to throw in some very tight windows. Like, he has taken such a good step forward, but this is another guy I feel like should return because, like, just with that 6'5", 235, he's a plus athlete. He's got a huge arm. He's literally got a rocket launcher for an arm. I feel like being a true junior, come back, get more reps, and just continue to take those steps in the right direction, man. And hopefully freaking Penn State could get some pass catchers there on the roster. But man, Allar's he's got the build, the arm talent, or at least the arm strength. He's got the makings of a top 5, top 10 pick. The question is, can the play catch up to it? Because right now he's playing well, but it can feel conservative at times. So another guy that I think probably comes back, but just with the building blocks that he has, he's definitely an interesting prospect in that regard. All right, let's keep moving. We're going to go talk about Will Howard because I don't think I've really talked a lot about Will Howard on the channel, if at all, because he wasn't in my top 10 quarterbacks, I think, entering the year, and I think he missed it for my mid-season. But he's kind of in there. He's in this like Curtis Rourke, Kyle McCord type of area, guys that are like Dillon Gabriel. And he probably has the best tools of the bunch when it comes to those guys. I really do think he does. Coming in at 6'5", 235. And the dude's another guy, another unit there with a cannon, but he's such a good runner plus athleticism with him. He has the ability to really attack all levels of the field. Coming off a good game where he threw for 3 touchdowns against Purdue. Let's be fair, Purdue's not a great team. So yeah, he came out, had a good outing. He rushed for a touchdown in this game as well. But I think something that they've kind of stripped away from him was the YOLO balls, because at Kansas State he had a ton of YOLO balls, and now he's kind of being asked to play more within the offense. He's not necessarily taking a lot of shots here and there. He's kind of just taking what's given to him. That's kind of reflected in his adjusted completion percentage, where he is at 79%, so that's hella good. But we go ahead and take a look at the passing depth, and he's just not passing down the field a ton. But when he is, like, he's hella successful. And to be fair, like, he's attacked the middle part of the field pretty successfully, but I mean, most of his throws are coming on passes 9 yards or fewer through the air, and he's kind of just trying to put the ball in his playmakers' hands and telling them to go make plays, right? Which there ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just like you wonder, okay, well, is this somebody that I'm gonna kind of have to scheme around? Because let's not pretend like the ball accuracy was like great at Kansas State, because like the ball placement can be a bit everywhere for him. I mean, at Kansas State in 2023, it was 70.5%. So it was a bit here or there. I know people hear 70%, they still think that's hella good, and it is, but not exactly what you're looking for when we're talking like these first rounders, or even some case like early to mid day 2 players. But also with Will Howard, he's probably going to be not one of the oldest, but one of the older quarterbacks in this class. He'll be 24 at the start, or I think near the very beginning of his rookie year. I almost said freshman year. And I just don't think as a processor he's there yet. But in terms of like the athleticism, the size, the arm strength, like he's definitely a worthwhile flyer as a developmental quarterback. And I'm kind of curious, like, where do those guys now go? Because this isn't like, oh, we're going to be taking Kyle Trask and Kellen Mond in the midday 2, 3rd round, and we'll try to develop these guys and see what's up. I think the NFL's now been like, yeah, if we just see them as developmental guys, we'll just take those guys on day 3. Sorry. Just kind of is what it is. So, like, I feel like he's probably in the early day 3 discussion. Just based on the tools, but certainly someone I wanted to at least highlight, because I don't feel like I've given him a lot of shine on the channel just yet. So I had to talk about him. Move into Dillon Gabriel. My short king. Everyone's short king. The dude's 6 foot, allegedly. I think he's probably more 5'11", coming in at 200 pounds. So the dude's small. And let's just be honest. Coming off a game he didn't have to do a whole lot. Threw for 3 touchdowns. Went 23 of 34 for 183 yards. But let's call it what it is. Listen, I know a lot of people love Dillon Gabriel, but listen, Bryce Young burnt me too bad, and I'm done with these short kings. Like, unless you're like Kyler Murray, I'm done with these short quarterbacks. I'm never going in on them again as early prospects. I'm just not. I just don't believe that you can be sub 6 foot and take care of business in the NFL. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, exceptions to the standard. But that's the thing in the NFL draft. Like, okay, are you willing to bet on the exception, that this player's the exception? Or are you just gonna be like, oh no, even if we do really like him and we think he can be an exception, we'll take him on day 3. And that's kind of where I'm at with Dillon Gabriel. I'm gonna be honest, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, like, he plays within an offense where he doesn't have to do much, just has to get the ball into his playmakers' hands and let them make moves because they got killer speed. Or sometimes he'll be dealing with just loads of separation down the field. Because you could go back to the Boise game. He had some bad misses down the field, some on the same drive, but down the field where it's like, wow, those were touchdowns and you just missed it. You just did. So it's just, I just don't think I don't think there's enough there to like warrant a day 2 discussion with Dillon Gabriel. Like, I get it, man. Quick release, super accurate. Honestly, a solid arm. Quick. He can be elusive. He's slippery, but like, he's an older prospect. He's short for the quarterback position. And I don't think he's really ever been asked to do a whole lot in terms of like process in the field. He's more of like this half the field type of processor. And I mean, Bo Nix was similar in that regard, not similar in, size and arm talent and whatnot. But he was similar in that regard in terms of like, he didn't have to do a whole lot. He just had to kind of like read half of the field and do his thing, and that worked at Oregon. Haha. That's why I bring up Bo Nix. Dillon Gabriel, he's functioning in the same offense. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know if that might be disappointing for some, but listen, I'm not going to bet on Dillon Gabriel being the exception because I honestly don't think he is. I just don't. And then finally, of course, we got to talk about Shedeur, baby. Shedeur, arguably, this is, I think, most people's top quarterback in this class. Not mine, but maybe I'm just putting words in the mouth of people. But I think he's a top guy for a lot of people. But I'd argue, It's not like he's got elite tools. He's got good tools. I don't know if I'd even call him great tools. Like, he's got plus mobility. Like, the dude can get it done on his feet, but he's not going to strike fear into defense's heart with his feet. He doesn't have like a big arm. He just doesn't. Sorry. Like, how what does he do down the field? He relies a lot on the touch pass, right? And that's the thing. This dude's got exceptional touch. He's a really good decision maker, and he plays with really good anticipation. That's why so many people love him. But it's like, where's the ceiling on that, you know? Are we talking about someone who can be like this, be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? I think maybe, perhaps, because we've seen it work with like a guy like Joe Burrow, not the biggest arm in the world. Like, again, if we're going to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, like Joe Burrow, like in terms of arm strength, it's like a 6.5. And I think Shedeur is probably in the same zip code at least, right? So, and you can get it done by being exceptionally accurate. And I mean, that's what that's Shedeur, man. I mean, sure, he takes some stupid throws now and then. Not like putting the ball in harm's way, but like, hey, it's like 4th and 7. Why are you going down the field? Let's just try to get this 7 yards. Like, if you go back to the end of the Kansas State game. So, like, with Shedeur, it's like, I don't think he's got like, there's not a big enough ceiling there for me to where I would take him in the top 10. But we get into the mid to like late first round. I would say more so mid. And we start talking about like pick 12, pick 15. I'd certainly think about Shedeur if I'm looking to bring some stability to my quarterback position. I would argue Shedeur is probably the most pro-ready quarterback in this class. The pocket presence needs a little bit better. He sometimes drifts in the pocket and takes some bad sacks. But for the most part, I think he does a good job of playing within the offense and living to play another down. I think for the most part, he does a good job of that. People will talk about the whole Deion Sanders diva. This guy's a diva. Haha, hoo hoo. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really care about that when it comes to Shedeur. I really don't. Like, for me, I think it's more relevant for Shiloh as a prospect, just because he has there are some red flags there when it comes to Shiloh. Like, Shedeur doesn't have those red flags. And I don't think he really carries himself like a diva either. Like, he might be the most like low key, like, unboastful diva I've ever seen. I mean, there's enough there you can make a point, but again, I just don't care about it. I just don't. But when it comes to like the tools and what he's put on the field, I think it's first round worthy. That's why I talk about, like, if we're gonna talk about the tier of quarterbacks, it's like, for me, it's Ward and Shedeur. And then after that, it's a bunch of guys that, like, either they have good tools, they have a good arm, but there isn't enough there, whether it's like turnover worthy plays or just throw accuracy. And I think those, like, that's probably the next tier to talk about. And then you jump to these guys who might be limited in tools, or they don't play in an offense that has a ton of NFL concepts and whatnot. And I'm talking about like your Carson Becks and your Jaxson Darts, your Quinn Ewers. I think they're kind of in another category. Though Quinn Ewers is kind of weird. I feel like he's kind of in a tier by himself in between these toolsy guys that, hey, there's some stuff, and hey, maybe not the most toolsy guys, or they play within an offense that's, again, you kind of question how translatable it is. He's kind of in between there because he's got good tools. He plays in a good offense with Sarkisian that runs a lot of NFL concepts. But I just don't think he has, like, I don't know. I'd argue like him and Nuss are kind of in this like interesting tier. And then of course you got Allar and Milroe. But I mean, I'm getting off I'm getting sidetracked and off subject. I just really wanted to talk about quarterbacks today because, like, I look at this class and I question if 3 quarterbacks will even go in the first. I question, like, I feel like it's 2. And if you were going to ask me to bet money, like, hey, do you think 2 quarterbacks will go in the top 10? And I don't know if teams are going to be that desperate. It'd be like, yeah, no, if we don't have that much faith in, like, drafting a guy in that area, we're not going to take him there. So, like, I think 1 will go in the top 10, but I don't have the balls to say 2 will. But go ahead. Let me know what you think. Who are some of your favorite quarterbacks in this class? I talked about Curtis Rourke last week. That's why I wasn't in the video here. I talked actually a lot about Curtis Rourke last week. So if you want more Rourke talk, you could check out my stock report from last week. But let me know, who are some of your favorite quarterbacks? What's your overall feeling in this quarterback class? And if your favorite NFL team, if they're desperate enough to take a QB in this class, are you willing for them to take that quarterback? Go ahead, just let me know in the comment section below. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. As always, until next time, be easy, my friends. Later.